What's up, y'all? Tommy Boy here with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how you could potentially end up paying taxes when you are negotiating collection accounts, okay? So if that's something that interests you, or if you have collection accounts on your credit report, you might want to stay tuned. Now, this video really shouldn't take too long. I'll kind of break down how this even occurs, and then I'll deep dive into what I think about it, whether it's necessary evil, whether it's worth it, and what the situation is. Okay, now the way this typically works is, like, imagine whenever you go, one of the things I always recommend you guys do is you try to dispute negative accounts, right? Well, there's going to be certain situations where you do get a negative account. You can get a negative account on your you have a negative account on your credit report that you're not able to get removed, right? Specifically like a collection account. So what typically is going to happen, and this scenario about being taxed or having to pay taxes is on collection accounts, but can happen with creditors as well, okay? And I'll explain more about that here in a little bit. But the way it works is, when you have a collection account, I typically recommend, if you can't get it removed, you negotiate with the debt collector, right? And in that scenario, what you're basically gonna do is you'll reach out to the debt collector and tell them, hey, let's say, for example, you owe, $5,000 on a debt. And depending on how old it is, depending on, how much information they have on it, they might be willing to settle for, let's say, just for example, $2,000. When a situation where they're willing to take $2,000, right? And let's say you pay them that $2,000 and then you ask for a pay for delete. If you haven't heard about that, then you might want to check out my other videos I've shot on collection accounts and how to get them removed. But you ask them for a pay for delete, and so they delete the account. And what they're actually going to end up doing is they'll more than likely send you what's called a 1099, okay? So a 1099 form, basically what that is it just means that, they've kind of written it off their books, right? You've pretty much won in that situation where you're going to be paying less of an amount, right? And it's going to be something called a cancellation of debt income, okay? So they're pretty much telling the IRS, hey, we didn't make this money that we were supposed to make, so we want to write it off on our taxes and pretty much take a loss on this money. Okay, the idea being is, they bought the debt from somebody else and they weren't able to collect on that full amount of the debt. Okay, and so they're able to take a write-off on that, and they're giving you a tax form. And a lot of people, the mistake that a lot of people make is, they decide to ignore that form. Okay, you do not want to do that. You do not want to ignore the form, because you might just think that it's a form that you have and the IRS is never going to know. But you got to keep in mind that the debt collector has to report on that debt as well, right? So they've already reported to the IRS, or they will report during that tax year to the IRS that they gave you a 1099, and they're allowed to write it off because they've pretty much passed that debt on to you, right? And so you want to make sure that you're filing this information, right? You're filing it, and you'll of course have to pay taxes on that because it's technically considered income. So in that example I gave you, right, you owed $5,000, but you only paid $2,000. So technically that $3,000 is kind of considered income. So you have to pay some sort of tax. It kind of depends what tax bracket you're in. It's a bunch of other information. You can, just look that information up, or just talk to whoever your tax professional is, and they can give you more information on that. But you'll more than likely end up paying some sort of tax for that. But the question really comes down to, is it worth it, right? Some people might listen to that and say, hey, you know what, then I shouldn't even negotiate those debts. I should just leave it. But at the end of the day, you're still winning. That's the biggest part of it, because you're not going to end up paying the full amount, right? The $5,000 that you owe, right? You're winning for two different ways. One, you basically got a discount. You're paying a lot less. You might end up paying a little more than the $2,000 that I gave you in the example, but you're actually going to be paying a lot less, in terms of the full amount that you were supposed to pay. That's the first win that you get. The second win is that, you don't have to deal with that on your credit report anymore if you ask for a pay for delete. So you are now covered. You're good to go whenever it comes to dealing with, having to deal with that a collection account, and you're going to see that your credit score is going to increase because of it. Okay, so that's going to be probably, I think probably the main benefit that I see is is really that credit score, right? Seeing that your credit score is increasing. And again, guys, make sure you're asking for the pay for delete, because if you don't ask for it, then you're in a situation where you literally paid for a debt that's not going to help you improve your credit score. I have a lot of you guys have reached out to me and been like, hey, Tommy, I paid a collection off and my credit score didn't increase. Well, your credit score is not going to increase unless you make sure that you're telling them to delete it from your credit report. It has to be completely removed, okay? A paid collection is just as bad as an unpaid collection, okay? So you want to get those things removed. Alrighty, so that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. It was nice and sweet, or short and sweet. And one thing I will say is make sure that you know, if you're dealing with any other types of accounts on your credit report, if you have late payments, inquiries, bankruptcies, collections, charge-offs, whatever it is, I've shot videos on all those different topics. I'll link to them down below so you can take a look at them. So go ahead and check those videos out. And also make sure that if you have any questions, you're putting it down below in the comments. And also you're hitting the like button and the subscribe button down below as well. That way we can get this video out to more people, and that way you're not missing any of my future videos. Alrighty, so that's gonna be pretty much it for this video, guys. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you at the next one. Peace.